Hi and welcome to Dynamic Flexibility Part 2. This is a second part to my Dynamic Flexibility training video. And yes, that is a very old picture of me from 1997 doing a front splits while training out in some woods. So please make sure to warm up, loosen up all your joints. No equipment required for this, guys, but you are needing to be nice and warm, okay? Here we go. So toes turned out. This one's called a double adductor stretch. We're going to sit down into a deep squat, similar to a plie squat, and we're just going to let that stretch through the inside leg and allow yourself to loosen into that. Once you've loosened up a little bit, then we're going to apply the forearms to push the knees further apart. Remember, guys, that if you're not warm enough for this or you're feeling very tight, then you can pause the video and, of course, loosen up a little bit more. And this is a follow-on video to the previous dynamic stretching. This one is more based in what we call static or isometric stretches, okay? Some people call dynamic flexibilities movement based. I just wanted to use the word dynamic. Anyway, so yes, side to side, deep lunge, opening up the inside leg more. Okay, we're hitting those abductors and adductors in the inside leg, bicep femoris, bicep longus, and allowing the flexibility between the knees. So if you think of one knee and you're trying to create a straight line to the other knee going through the hips, so a turn to the side, deep front stance now, front foot facing forward, front knee at 90 degrees, and we've got the back foot flat on the floor, and we're trying to push that hip down towards the heel of the front leg, and you're going to lean back that little bit, just like that, to create a deeper stretch. Okay, and you can, of course, repeat these several times. These are all mostly demonstration ones, guys. You can join in. If you're not too flexible, guys, we're going to start this stretch higher up, as you saw me demonstrate just then. If you're a little bit more flexible, you can go further down. But what I want to note here is that I've got my heel of my back leg, the bent leg, on the ground. What most people will do is they'll lift their heel in this stretch, and that puts a lot of pressure on your Achilles tendon and the underside of your foot. So we don't want that. Foot flat on the floor, knee out to the side, and straight leg, toes up, toes flex back towards you. All right, guys, we're going to repeat those stretches again. People will say that, you know, you want to do each stretch and you want to hold it for X amount of time. You know, you can do it anyway, guys. You can hold it for 10 seconds, like 3 or 4 times, or you could hold it for 30 seconds, 40 seconds, you know, whatever works for you, okay? Sometimes repeating the same stretch, I found as I got older, repeating the same stretches over and over was better than just holding them and getting cold. If your heart rate slows down and you start to go into a sort of relaxed state, you're not going to stay very warm, and the muscles are going to get cold, and then you're going to get tighter and you could hurt yourself. So these are the same stretches we just did: side, lunge, and then we're going to a deep front stance, similar to a karate front stance, and repeating that definitely on both sides, putting pressure on that back hip and opening that gap up between the knees, so we're getting that straight line, trying to create a front splits in the air effectively. And of course, as I said, you can repeat this several times over, holding each one. If you want to be up this high, guys, that's as high as you need to go. If you can come down to the floor with me, then do so, but don't hurt yourselves, okay? Take your time. You might need to do this video a few times before you start to develop greater flexibility and greater range of motion. This video is all about showing you the stretches to be able to create a greater movement, a opening up of the legs and the back, and obviously reducing the chance of injury and better conditioning for the muscles. Strength is one thing, but that can create tightness, so it's really important that you stay flexible as well. Okay, down to the floor with a butterfly stretch now. Your heels should be as close into your groin as you can get them, back straight, head up. I'm taking hold of near my ankles or near my shins, and I'm just applying a gentle stretch with my elbows. Mainly I'm just letting the legs lower themselves at this point. You've got to make sure that your hips are nice and close in to your heels here, so that you're really feeling it in those inside legs just letting gravity do its work. All right, modify hurdler stretch. And you see, I'm demonstrating there to be face on to the leg. So your foot is flat. Don't turn it in or out. You want to have that foot flat in front of you, and your leg will not go flat. Okay, if you see, I'm wearing leggings for this, so you can actually see the movements of my legs, and you can see there is a gap between the floor and my leg, but my leg is as straight as it will go. Okay, so you know, people always say put your leg straight. Well, your leg will straighten, but because of muscle, it will not go flat. So don't worry if there's a little gap between the knee and the floor. Don't force that knee towards the floor. Just allow it to be as straight as you can. If you can't reach the foot, guys, grab your ankle, but try to make sure that you're grabbing it evenly. Okay, you don't want your outside hand to be further than your inside hand. So both of my hands are nice and even there. Keeping my head up to help keep my back straighter. And you're bringing your chin to your shin, okay? That's a phrase I use for this one, chin to shin, okay? It's not head to knee. The distance between your hip to your knee is much shorter than your hip to your head. So chin to shin. Okay, now we're really applying the elbow. Is going to repeat that butterfly stretch again. And you can see that you can go a little bit lower now, using your elbows to push the knees down to the floor. Obviously, if you're a lot higher, guys, sometimes we jokingly call them earmuffs if your knees are quite close by your head. But you know, it takes practice. Okay, I'm not a head accountant. Okay, I'm not a school teacher. I'm not a mathematician. I'm not a scientist. This is what I've been doing for many years, guys. So it's not something that just came to me. It's taken a lot of practice. And here's a weird one for you. This one is called reverse frog. Okay, this is a very strange one. Okay, maybe a dead frog. But there we go. That's a stretch for your inside thigh again. And now we're going to bring that knee to the chest. Obviously, you can normally do this one while standing, but sometimes it's good to do this one lying down because it takes all that balancing out of the equation, and you're just simply stretching those glutes and stretching the underside of the leg. And of course, we want to make sure we repeat on the other side. Anytime you're doing a single-sided stretch, guys, you want to make sure that you repeat it evenly on both sides. Even use a timer that maybe beeps every 20 seconds to remind you to change legs, and that way you're going to keep a nice even timing on both legs. All right, stretching the hamstring, and you can have your leg as bent as you like here, guys, but the straighter you get it, the deeper the stretch is going to be. You notice the other leg is bent up. I've got my leg up and toes flexed back, and I'm repeating on the other side, hooking behind the knee. And you can have your leg bent if you need to, but we want to try and straighten the leg as much as possible and pull that higher up the leg as far as you can and just feel that stretch. And again, we're holding this for about 20 seconds. You can hold these for longer in your own practice. And we can, of course, repeat these stretches several times over. Sometimes I've repeated them, sometimes I've not. You can, of course, use these. You see I'm repeating another similar stretch here again, but a variation version. So again, the butterfly, but this time I'm going to lean forward. Now when I lean forward, I'm leaning forward from my hips, rotating my hips and pushing my chest forward while keeping my head and chest up and forward. Legs out in front, double leg hamstring stretch, keeping the back nice and straight, keeping the head up. I like to think of keeping my chest forward and my shoulders back, and I find that helps with this one. And reaching out, pulling back on the toes. Again, if you can't reach your toes, you can, of course, just hold your shins. It takes practice. If you've never done flexibility before, or you've never done flexibility training, it takes a while. All right. Now, I know some of you are thinking about switching off the video now because you're thinking, wow, I'm not going to do that. But again, how did I get there, guys? I started at 90 degrees and built myself up to be able to develop my seated split flexibility. Okay, this is what I like to call a box split. Some people call it a middle split, but it's one of my favorites. So what we're going to do is to get the legs as far apart as possible, and then we're going to place one hand in front and one hand behind, so I'm facing onto the left leg. And what I'm doing, and it's very clear here, is pushing only the one leg out. So my left leg in this case, I'm pushing out to the side, and I've got my feet turned in, as you can see I'm demonstrating there, and I'm pushing my left leg out and my right leg is being anchored. And this is really helpful, guys, because it doesn't move both legs at the same time. Okay, shift it back a little bit. Relax that flexibility off, or relax that stretch off so you're less tight. Now we're going to anchor the left leg and push the right leg out. See, this way you're going to stretch a little bit more and a little bit longer, but you're going to focus mainly on one side instead of trying to move both at the same time. You're always going to have one side that's tighter than the other, and if you try and move both at the same time, the good side is always going to have to hold back because the bad side can't go as far. I was taught this by a great guy called Bill Superfoot Wallace, and he was an amazing kickboxer and film star, and I like to say a friend of mine as well. Okay, shout out to Bill Wallace. So again, legs out and pushing that one leg out, and we're going to go both this time. So we did left pushing out, right pushing out, and they're both nice and stretched now. A tired muscle is a flexible muscle. So a tired muscle is a flexible muscle. And what I'm doing there is just showing that I'm digging my heels down and now pushing my hips forward as they're both stretched. And I can now go a lot further than what I did at the start of this video. The longer you hold it for, the better it's going to get. As I was saying, a tired muscle is a flexible muscle. The more you hold the stretch, the longer you hold it for, especially these big stretches. Imagine this to be the compound exercise of stretching. You're stretching a lot of different stuff at the same time, but you can't do this kind of stretch right at the start. You got to build up to being able to do those split stretches. All right. I like to keep it interesting in the way I do the stretch. So I'm reaching out, pulling back on my toes on one side, then the other. And I'm also keeping my back straight and leaning forward from the hip, bringing my chest forward. I'm not bending my back. I'm making sure that I'm breathing. That's my breathing movement, okay, to remind people to breathe deeply into the stretch and relax. In exercise, we want to focus and work harder when we're getting tired. In stretching, you want to learn to relax more, okay? As it gets more difficult, as it gets harder, you want to relax. And of course, you want to give some poses as well. The longer you stay in it, guys, the easier this is going to get. So just enjoy yourself, have a bit of fun, and you're going to develop flexibility that you can be very proud of, that you can keep for many, many years. As I said, I did martial arts from like 13, 14 years old, and the flexibility has stayed with me as long as I've been doing this kind of stretching at least once or twice a week. I believe that you get confidence through flexibility training, as you know you can do the stretches and you know you can go as far as you want to be able to go, but you just have to keep doing it and you have to stay in it. So this stretch, as you can see, I'm holding this for a nice long time and just having a bit of a laugh while sitting in it. One thing I used to do was to, as a still for the video, one thing I used to do was to just sit like this in front of the TV and just relax into it and build that flexibility. Alright guys, we're going to bring the legs back in, put the hands either side of your butt and push your hands back, shifting your hips back. Don't try and pull your legs in by their own strength. They're fully stretched. They need to relax and have a minute. So push your hips back using your hands, bring your feet in and bring your knees in and out to loosen the adductors. And now stand up and give your hips a circle and yourself a round of applause. Fantastic guys, thanks very much. Please like, subscribe and of course comment.